Okay, hi, so I'm Michael Westberg from Conode. Very happy to be here. I've sort of followed about 60% of what was said in Flemish. But that's life, so I'll do this in English anyway. And I think looking back at the things that were said, it's been very interesting. From my side, you will actually see what you could see as a sales pitch, but I think you should see it more as a case study, actually, because what we have done with RF mesh is for real. We currently have deployed about 700,000 meters in the Nordics. We have an order stock of about 2 million something IPv6 mesh installations coming on. I'll come to that. So I think the way to see it is really what we have done is something that can be done and probably should be done. And the other thing I was thinking about is that a great man called Tannenbaum once said that the good thing with standards is that there are so many things to choose between. And IP is probably the single common denominator that will rule also this environment going forward. Okay? So Conode, we've been on the market for a number of years. We've rolled out across the Nordics, because finally Finland is probably the most advanced smart metering market in Europe, at least as far as I'm aware. And there we have about 25% market share. And we've connected, for instance, basically all the smart meters in Helsinki, so that's about 300,000 in itself. The other claim to fame we have as a company is that we were awarded a significant part of the UK smart metering rollout program together with Telefonica. So I can't go into too many details on that one because it's basically under wraps still for political reasons. But the outcome is that, I'll come to that, is that we are indeed a key supplier to the UK government, supplying RF mesh technology based on IP. And we're based in Stockholm. So what we deliver is what normally an RF mesh should be like. It's highly scalable, it's self-configuring, it doesn't take much planning, it doesn't take much management after it's been installed, and it's got a full inbuilt security based on let's say, standard IP methodology. Open source, standards-based, future-proof. And it's an end-to-end solution, so it's both let's say the RF mesh network out there, but it's also, which is perhaps more important, is also the industrialized management of large-scale installations. There are probably 1 million people building RF 6 low pan RF mesh kind of things out in the garages across the world, but there are very few people who actually managed 6 low pan constrained devices networks in large scale, and we're one of them. Our view, once again, the metering market has been pretty much a silo kind of industry. So you buy an end-to-end solution from a meter vendor or similar. That's not going to be the case in a few years. And I'll just keep the time, I'll jump on this one. But essentially, I think the trend, which was also stated by I think Cisco and Silver Spring, is that metering becomes part of the Internet of Things. So it's one application among many. You do want to reutilize your communications infrastructure. Okay. From our side, we got, you could say, I picked 3 references. One is in Sweden, where we started off when Sweden actually rolled out countrywide automated meter readings a few years back. The second one, once again, is the Helsinki Energy case, and I'll come back to that a bit later. Without going too much into too much detail. But it's basically the first advanced national smart metering in rollout. Let's see if I have a pointer here. Which one is that? Okay, that one, thank you. So that one. And it was a major rollout in Helsinki, which terminated a couple of years ago, across 1 year. And then once again, we're the key supplier, one of the key suppliers. I think there are like 7 or 8 actually in the program. Through Telefonica. So that's total, it's about 20 million households falling under Telefonica, and we are, in our view, probably going to be acting as an an extended solution to go to mobile networks, which is about 10% of the total population, but that's still significant. So it's about 2 million households. And that's going to happen starting rolling out next year. So it's really the main effort we're doing right now from our side. A real project, which I think is always interesting, and this is what we did in Finland, together with Landis+Gyr, basically, rolling out an industrialized large-scale smart metering end-to-end service based on Conode mesh technology. And basically going back, oh sorry, pressing the wrong one. Basically, looking at Finland as a market, there was a national rollout which terminated about a bit more than a year ago. There are a number of DSOs, but the basic requirement here was hourly readings across a 24-hour cycle. So basically getting electricity meter data, nothing gas or water, but electricity. And they also have remote control breakers. So basically you can turn on and off the household's electricity, and you can also do some what do you say, load management together with customers. Very few public issues, which I know has not been the case in the Netherlands, for instance, but Finns apparently trust the government and their utility. So nothing really about radiation or privacy or integrity or anything like that. Quite different, and we're aware of that. I would say the regulation as such is kind of future-proof. It does allow for new services to be incorporated into this environment. And it's service provider model which dominates, which means that it's actually not the utility who is running or operating the solution. It's typically a third party. So one would be LNG, and that's actually going to move over to Ericsson. Another one is TeliaSonera. So the utilities tend to hand over the management of these installations. And there's a strong preference for wireless mesh, actually. Experience in the Nordics with PLC is mixed. Experience with radio is positive, and this is a very clear message. You can actually call anyone, any utility in the Nordic market, and that's quite consistent. So what we did then, there was a quite extensive planning phase. There was a reading setup, there was a mass rollout, and now we're into the meter reading service. It's 100% RF mesh from us. It's about 200,000 meters initially, and we actually did an early deployment, so the total from our side is about 300,000 meters. The SLA, which is met and has been met all the time, is 99.9% of the meter reads. The meters have done a full 24-hour, let's say, complete series every 24 hours. So actually, when you talk about this figure, it means that it's 1 out of 1,000 that has missed one or more reads, one register or anything like that. So it's actually a very, very good figure. And the 129-hour figure is, I've got no clue why they put that in the SLA, but that's where it was anyway. And the actual realization, it took less than 1 year. They had 30 installers to do this, and 5 people doing sort of more advanced cleanup when needed. The peak rate, this was a lot of meter rooms, so the meters were actually co-located to a large degree. They did something like 50 meters per day, but that's, it depends on if you have to go and knock on people's doors, or if you have access, if you can mount the meters side by side and so on. But I think the best that any installer did was like well over 100. I think it was 150, 160 meters, but that was kind of extreme. And the mix here, which is fairly typical, is that we have about one gateway, a holdback point per 30 odd. So we're talking about slaves here, but I would say mesh modules. And that's fairly typical for our architecture. So we're looking at typically about 1 to 100 today, with 2 minutes. So it's a bit different in architecture if you compare to Silver Spring, for instance. The interesting point here is that cleanup fieldwork going back to the customer was about 1% of the meter points. And that was really in the start of the project. And when they followed the process, and actually for the last half of the project, there was less, basically the SLA level was reached without cleanup. And the outcome today is that I don't think anyone basically touches the system at all. It's just out there operating. The operating costs are extremely low. Obviously, I have one guy monitoring, but there's very little, let's say, active operational handling of the system. And the risk level when installing is extremely low with this kind of technology, because people didn't have to go back. And I should add as a final point that the concentrator, in our case, is actually located in the meter as a module inside the LNG meter that's been used here. So I think that's pretty much, that's some, in-field installation, how it looks in reality. But one thing, I'll just finish off here. Interoperability, open standards, including security, extremely important to go with IP-based security mechanisms, I would say. Look at total cost, and obviously, since we're tested and tried and proven, that's our view. You should go with people who've done it before. Thank you.